Hey guys, welcome to CMY. I'm Christian. Got Marc and Yani on the line. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. So we're all fans of Matt Day, and we saw that he was talking about his switch over to Leica. He just got an SL2, which from what I understood, some of his followers were very upset about because he's known as a film shooter or someone that, I don't know what the big thing is about
Well,
people not allowing you to shoot digital or film or one or the other. But anyway, he switched over to fully Leica. He sold his Canon gear. So he wanted to talk a little bit more about that because I did the same thing, and Marc and Yaniel have done similar things as well. So we think it's an interesting topic.
one of the things he touched on is not just that it's not a film camera, it's that an SL2 is not a cheap camera, even not by full frame standards, not by anything. And they asked him, and I liked his response to it. Somebody told him, like, this is not, your audience isn't really the target market for this camera. And he said, I'm not here to sell you a camera. I'm here to talk about what I shoot and what I like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not for everybody, but it's still interesting to hear his perspective on the camera. Even
Yeah.
you, even if you can't afford something, it's still interesting to learn about it. I can't afford a Ferrari, but I still love watching Ferrari videos.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great analogy.
totally.
Yeah,
Totally. And I think that it's funny because I often describe, because like if I go to a client's house and they ask me like, oh, what is that? Like, I've never heard of that. Or some people do know and they're like, oh, like I see you shoot with a Leica. Uh, I often describe it as a Ferrari of cameras for a reason. Um, to me, the quality is unmatched. The usability is unmatched. And on top of everything, and I think this is really what sold me, was the community. The Leica community has been really supportive of me and my business. The Leica store here in Miami has been awesome to me. And honestly, the reason that this show even exists is because of our love for Leica. That's how we met. So uh, that's really been an integral part of why I switched over from my previous camera system to Leica.
yeah.
That's true. We met on Instagram probably because of Leica.
Mm-hmm.
And then you met Mark at the Leica store for the
Phil Penman.
For
Yeah,
Phil Penman
yeah,
event.
Phil
Yes.
yeah.
Penman did an event
Sitting
there.
back there on the shelf somewhere. Yeah,
There you go.
yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah,
yeah.
that Leicas have brought us together, which I didn't even think about.
I never thought about it either. Yeah, didn't feel that way. But it's funny you mentioned like people are upset because I didn't pay too much attention to it because you know as a fan of Matt Day, I've kind of watched him and just say, okay, whatever he's into, it kind of I'm interested in his perspective as a photographer, not so much as like a film shooter or as a Leica shooter or as this. I mean, he's reviewed a bunch of cameras from Fuji to Leica to Canon to this and that. So it's interesting hearing that because I probably just didn't pay much attention to it. But it tells you something a little bit about what social media has done to, I think, camera brand loyalty, right, and trends and everything like that. I mean, I think we talked about it a couple of times, like in person or just over WhatsApp or something, about like Matt Day has probably single-handedly released a big part of his influence on the popularity of the Leica M6, which I think at least we've all owned at some point in time. It can probably be attributed to his videos, right, because of his, I guess, fervent love for the camera and constantly posting about it. I mean, I for one learned more about it from him after I got mine, but it seemed like everybody's now picking up M6s or trying to find an M6, and
Yeah.
since I got mine, the price has damn near doubled. So, but it tells you something a little bit about the social media or social aspect of camera brand loyalty and everything, and what that's like. It's very culty these days, right? And culty not because of
Just a little.
professional. Yeah. But I mean, if you think about like, last episode we talked about where we came from and what brands, I mean, we all kind of started in the Canon Nikon world because they were just kind of like, it's like the Honda and Toyota of the world. And, you can look at it nowadays, you have like the Sony fanboys, you have the Canon fanboys who are kind of a little bit, behind the times almost, right? And people that are Leica files and then people that are, Fuji files and so on. And there seems to be this, trend of like being gung-ho about your camera brand rather than just, you know, what makes you happy or what does the job for you. And I think that's one thing that's interesting about, I think, Christian's perspective that I've seen is that, you know, there's a lot of people that say, well, you could buy XYZ camera that's going to be cheaper or better or do more. But I don't think that stops Christian from doing really good work from, you know, I mean, you can check out his Instagram and all the work. Like, so it's less about the brand alone and what makes it work for you, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
I personally shoot with a couple different brands of cameras, or I have shot with a couple different brands. I'm kind of settled on two right now. But I think it does say a lot about, you know, what's happening in the camera world because of the internet, because of social media. So
I think that I agree with you to a certain extent. I think that since I've switched to Leica, the brand has been, I've been, you know, I think that it's really easy to call Leica files fanboys and whatever. And I've seen it all and I've read it all. And it's funny and it's a lot of it's true, you know, but it's for a reason, you know, it's for a reason because I haven't found a machine like the Leica that has allowed me to completely diminish the what's the word? Let's see. I don't know. It allows me to focus on what I'm doing and not so much like the contraption that's in my hand, you know? It allows me to be more present. It kind of pushes out distractions because it's so simple. It's such a simple camera. It doesn't, sometimes I tell people, you know, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles like a Sony does, for example, which I've shot before. And even the new Canon stuff that's coming out looks like it's going to be, you know, up there in terms of tech. But Leica just kind of brings all that down to this really simplistic, take the photo and that's it, you know, and that's really important to me. And as a documentarian and a wedding photographer and a people photographer, it really makes all the difference in the world to capture the moment and not so much be worried about like fidgeting around with what's in your hand, you know?
So I think for you, you probably came into this level of Leica use at the right time, because up to now they really weren't that. They were always good, but they weren't what I would consider a camera I would want to use professionally. The SL2 is a huge improvement over the SL, and before the
Absolutely.
SL, there
It
really
is.
wasn't any other option. The medium format cameras have, I think now they're pretty good, but before, like, it was usable up to like maybe ISO 800, ISO 400. The M's before the
Yeah, it like
M10s,
wasn't a Hasselblad or a Phase One or anything.
the M9 with the CCD sensor had no high ISO performance.
Mm-hmm.
The M240, when it came out, the sensor was already behind what the other people were making. The M10 was better, and now with the R that's coming out, that's actually a really good sensor currently. So Leica's finally putting out products that are really well designed, and the technology's up there and catching up with, I think, with other brands and as good. Like, you're not, apart from the actual hit to your pocketbook, you're not being hampered by going with a Leica compared to a Canon or a Nikon or a Sony.
Right.
Like, you're still going to get a very good technology experience while
Correct.
getting the Leica experience behind it.
yeah,
Absolutely. My first digital Leica was the M10, the original M10, not the M10P. I still have it, and it's still my favorite camera. It's actually sitting right behind me, right here. And that my very first Leica, however, was the Leica M3, which is a film camera. And that when I started shooting with the M3 is really what drew me into the simplicity of it all. And then I pretty much about a month or two after got the M10, and that camera still to this day, unless it's for actual work, doesn't leave my hand. I love shooting with my M10 so much, and it really creates a user experience like no other. And there's a reason that Matt Day is obsessed with his M6, and there's a reason that Joe Greer is obsessed with his M6, and there's a reason that Henry Cartier-Bresson shot with his M3. You know, and that's talking about that, that's another thing that kind of really drew me into the whole thing, was the history behind everything. You have these legends, absolute legends and monsters in photography, and people that have documented the most important moments in the world's history using a Leica. And that's something to be said about the brand and the usability of the camera.
Yeah. Well, so my perspective on it is slightly different. I mean, I agree with that, right? I think there's a couple of aspects of photography and whether you're doing it professionally or you're doing it for fun is, one is, hey, what makes you want to pick it up, right? It's like, what makes you want to drive that Ferrari? What makes you want to jump in your car and look forward to driving it versus just like, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. I don't care what it is. It can be a Toyota or it can be a bicycle. I don't care, right? Mm-hmm. So there's that aspect I think that Leica definitely brings. I mean, I've kind of grown fond of buying a camera not just because of what the technology is in it, but it's something that will like make me like looking at it, make me want to pick it up, make me want to use it. I think that's important. I think, again, as somebody who has been in technology, works in that field, so to speak, I can't ignore the technology aspects of it. And I was actually going to bring up a prime example of what Neil was talking about earlier is the Q and the Q2, right? Those are phenomenal cameras. I mean, phenomenal cameras for modern digital cameras. And yes, they're expensive because they're Leicas, but I have not met, besides myself probably, a person that dislikes or hasn't really, and I don't dislike the camera, so let me clarify that. But I've not met a person that said, you know what, this camera's trash, it's garbage, I'm never going to use it, it's not worth the money. I think every review I've seen online, everybody that actually has had one, I had a Q1 for a while and just, I decided to keep an X100V that I had instead. I think, Leica is doing the right thing by adopting some of the technology in the places that it matters, but keeping, their purest cameras like the M, right? I mean, I think the experience of shooting with an M is what makes you kind of think back to the Cartier-Bressons, think back to the purest element of what Leica is and it has, and the history and everything like that. And it's also just more fun to shoot with. It's more engaging. I think the last episode I mentioned something about driving like a manual transmission car, and like, yeah, it's not you can't shift as fast as like modern transmissions, but it's still more fun to roll your own gears, right? And stepping on the clutch and everything rather than just having everything do it for you. So I think it's not one or the other. I think everybody has to kind of weigh what it is. I mean, I've seen a lot of people that have, Christian's a perfect example. You have an SL2 that is kind of like your primary, and I think the Q2 are your primary kind of, work cameras, right? Your workhorse cameras, but you will shoot with the M when you can. And, that's also your personal camera. Mm-hmm. So I think, gone are the days anymore where, this was your one investment in a digital camera and that was it. You used it for everything because, cameras can do so much and there are different, nuances to all the different types of cameras out there now.
Well, that's kind of, oh, go ahead, Yani. Yeah, sorry.
What you said about, I kind of forgot exactly what you said, but about shooting quickly or something like that. Matt Day, in his video, he mentions, so when I just need to do some really quick shooting and I need to shoot something really fast, I'm like, oh, go pick up his SL2. No, I pick up my M6. That's what I'm fastest with. I pick up my M6 and I'm here, like, it takes me 15 seconds to like take a photo with that thing because let me get the metering right. Oh, I turned the thing the wrong way because it's backwards. It's opposite of the modern Leicas. Oh, let me get the aperture. Okay. Oh, I didn't wind it. Here we go. Oh, everything's gone. Forget this photo.
It's gone, yeah.
Meanwhile, he says that's his fastest camera. I'm like, I need to use mine more.
Yeah.
I think that it's definitely, you have to put it into practice, and I'm sure he does on a daily. I do not use my M10 daily. But however, when I do, for example, when I travel, which I travel a lot for work, I don't leave my hotel room without my M10. And by day 2 or 3, it's already like automatic, like I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just shooting. So it does take a little bit of effort at the beginning, but once you get into the swing of it, it almost sometimes does become a little bit faster than autofocus. I mean, I've had lenses that even I got the Sigma 135 1.8, I believe it was, or 1.4 maybe for the L mount, and I tried it on the SL2, and I had to return it because it's horrible. Like the autofocus is just like search, and then the moment's gone. And it was like, okay, so what am I gonna do with that? Like, I can't shoot a wedding with something that's gonna take forever to find focus. Whereas like so what I do now is I just have my M10 on me on a side bag, and if I need to shoot a little bit longer, I have my 90 on there, which is my favorite lens to shoot on my M10, and I just pull it out, find the focus, and shoot, and it's like instant. There's no searching, there's no back and forth. Like it's literally just instant.
Yeah.
I love how everybody is so different. Like, your favorite lens to shoot on your M is your 90. Mine is the 28, and I'm like, I wish I had something wider. I wish I had like a 21 or a 24, just so I would never have to focus. Meanwhile, you're here focusing a 90 millimeter at a wedding.
Yeah.
Go Christian.
Yeah.
To be fair, I have a 1.4 times
I don't
magnifier on the rangefinder. If not, I wouldn't. I don't think I'd be able to. I mean, it's just like the frame lines would be like super tiny.
With the 28 millimeter taking up, this thing doesn't even have 28 millimeter frame lines. It's like the entire viewfinder.
The M6
I still
does,
have trouble focusing that thing.
Yeah.
The M6 does.
Yeah.
So I guess by now we've established that we all shoot some kind of Leica. We kind of know Christians, I guess to an extent we can touch back on it, but how do you get into Leicas? Like, where did that come from? And, what was, again, last episode we talked about our journey into photography, but how do you get to Leica? Like, what made you buy your first Leica and so on and so forth?
So Leica for me was always kind of the end game. Like, I appreciate well-crafted things, handmade things, not for Leica, obviously, but made in America things, stuff like that. I've always been a fan of just craftsmanship. And photo-wise, Leica is that craftsmanship. It's the one camera that everybody, when they pick it up, they're like, wow, this thing is heavy. Oh my, is this brass? Wow. And they were, in my opinion, and it's still my opinion, they're stupidly expensive. And when I got into it, Marc was actually there that day. We went to the Leica store here in Miami and we bought one. I put on a credit card with 0% interest for 12 months, which was nice. And I thought I was spending, well, I did spend ridiculous amounts of money on this. But when you look back to what Leica has done, I guess through tariffs and just inflation and rising, like the prices going up for whatever reason the past few years, my original Leica M cost me $6,000, which is a ridiculous amount of money for a mechanical camera. But I got the M262, a 50 millimeter f2.4, which is actually right here, this little thing, the Summit, a flash, and a bag for $6,000. I'm pretty sure the M10 body by itself right now costs more than $6,000, or about that much.
Just under $8,000.
No, that's the R though.
No, I'm pretty sure it's like
R is
7
almost
something.
9.
Yeah, the R is like 8,300, 8,700 thereabout, or maybe the P is 80. Yeah,
but
they're
taxes and everything,
astronomically expensive. Yeah.
So I sold that flash to, I think, Care or MPB or one of those websites for, I want to say, nearly $300. The bag is sitting in my closet. The lens is worth like $1,500.
And they discontinued it.
And they discontinued it now. So it's a collector's item. If anybody wants to buy it, I'll only sell it to you for 3 times the price. But I effectively paid under $4,000 for a brand new M body, which, thinking back on it, it's a deal. Like, if an M10 was that price right now, I would jump on it in a heartbeat without thinking about it.
Yeah.
But the prices keep on going up.
Yeah, hell, you can't even buy. They came out with the ME, which is basically the 240, which is similar enough to the 262, and that was like
they
still
made
like
such a little. They made such a little quantity of that camera that it was almost impossible to get your hands on.
Yeah,
and
but I'm saying even then, you're still buying a modern, meaning in 2019, whenever they came out, or maybe 2018, and you're still paying close $4,000, maybe. I don't remember.
It was like 4,500, I think.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I mean. Yeah, I mean, Leicas are funny like that. So
the ironic part about the M262, it's the stripped down M240, so it doesn't have video and it doesn't have live view. But now you got the M10, which costs, I guess, almost $8,000, And it doesn't have video either. It
Yeah.
does have live view, but I never used it. And if you actually want to use it properly, you have to buy a really expensive viewfinder for it. So the stripped down version just became kind of the normal version in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was still that much cheaper, like less than half the price of what, or about half the price of what the current Leica costs.
Yeah.
It was, if I had to do it again today and buy an M10, I will still be shooting my Fuji.
Yeah.
It sucks. It sucks that unfortunately things cost the way they do. It's something that's hard to sell to other photographers. I mean, I've had photographers tell me I'm crazy. I've had photographers tell me like, it's just like, what do you think? Like, why would you do that? This is, every other wedding photographer shoots Canon or Nikon. Why would you even think about putting that much money into a camera that's just for work and it's going to get banged up and like at weddings, and what if someone spills their wine on it and whatever, like, and I thought about all those things. But you're talking about like, if I'm at weddings, I mean, pre-COVID, I was at a wedding every single weekend, maybe sometimes 2 weddings a weekend. And so that's a lot of time with a camera in my hand. And I just wanted the experience to be that much more exciting for me. Not to mention the fact that when I walk into a wedding with a Leica, people notice. People notice. People that know, they notice. And that helps my brand, that helps my company. And that helps my overall, my overall branding. Like, wow, he shoots with the absolute best camera. Like, the images you're going to get out of that camera are so good. They're so clean and well-rounded, and the tonality and the color just out of camera looks stunning. I mean, my filter, my preset is barely a preset. Like, if you look at my HSL, it's almost down the middle, because, and I can't say the same when I shot other brands.
And so, Mark, you were there when I bought my first Leica, and you thought I was crazy. But now you insane.
Yeah.
But now you have a few yourself. So what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. That's ironic, isn't it? Yeah. So I was actually at the store with him. He went to look at it, and I think we use these analogies to kind of describe where we say, oh, it's like the Ferrari, this is that, and like everybody that sees a Ferrari knows it's money, and that's kind of like all most people know. They don't know, like, again, the craftsmanship, the experience, or anything like that. I mean, so I think that's what it is, right? I mean, and if you look at the way most people evaluate those situations, like, what is the value of that experience to me, or do I know enough about it? And then how much does it cost? And typically you don't know enough about the experience and what it is before you start evaluating it from cost. So that was my perspective when I was like, all right, I've started out buying a camera that costs like $500-600, and that was a lot of money to me. And I didn't really know or appreciate what it was. And, I think what ended up happening with me is that, and I said this earlier, right? I've been focused more on the technology side of things. So, like, to me, it's like, if it doesn't have eye autofocus, if it doesn't have all these crazy cool things that are on basically filling out spec sheets, my question was like, why would you buy it? And I remember, using those M262 a couple times, like, after you had it, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, it's just different. It's not just, point and shoot and, fire off a bunch of shots or anything. And I think I started appreciating and learning more just by osmosis about Leica the brand, that particular camera, the build quality and everything like that. And then also the experience. I mean, I really started getting into shooting manual lenses more when I got into mirrorless. So I think that helped me appreciate the experience of shooting fully manual and again, using the manual transmission type of analogy.
That's
And
a whole
enjoying that
other
experience.
thing about like a whole other
Yeah.
step to it with the lenses, and like how you
Yeah.
can use them and how many cameras you can use them on. Like, I can use my M lenses on all of my cameras basically.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
there's a whole, it's kind of hard to put into words and like describe, like, okay, well, here's what but like I said, it eventually became a thing where it's like, I understood what the rage was about. And it was less about, still to some extent, the money, and more like, okay, well, if I like this experience, I want to try it out and everything. And that's exactly what I did. Right. So you bought that camera, the 262, in what, 2012, 11?
No, 2016.
Oh shoot, is that? I thought it was earlier than that. So, all right, 2016.
No,
So I
I had
bought.
no
that
money,
old.
and I had absolutely no money in 2012.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I was like. I was like, man, I was like, no wonder it was a lot of money. But in any case, yeah. So I got mine in 2019, 18. Crap, I already forgot it. I think it might have
19.
been just about a year,
It might
19
have
years.
been
So just about a year.
2019.
Yeah, because I got it. I was in Chicago with it in June last year, and I got it a little bit before that. So I decided, like, look, I've lusted after the idea of it. I've convinced myself of the idea, the notion of this is cool. I really want one. I've just would look at pictures of them. I love how the cameras look. And I convinced myself to just give it a try. I was like, I bought a used M240 from MPD.com. And I said, well, you know what? If I don't like it, I probably won't lose that much money on it. So give it a shot. And I mean, ever since then, like it's probably the camera I use the most. I do have a couple of the cameras, a couple of the Fuji cameras, but it is a camera I enjoy using the most. It's probably, it's not the best quality, best performance out of all the cameras I have because, again, the technology aspect of it, but it's definitely the most fun. And, it's a toss up between Desert Island cameras. It's either the 240 and my X100, whether it's an F or a V. And yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at with that. It's a great camera. It's fun to use. I don't know if I personally can do it as my only camera. That's been my struggle for the past couple of months trying to evaluate. But
We've been trying to help him with that.
yeah, I just
Decision.
can't see myself without one though, right?
Throw
I mean,
that Fuji
yeah,
out. Throw the
Give it
Fuji
up.
out. Just give
yeah,
it up.
But
yeah,
so about the Fuji though, I have an X100T, and it sits in my drawer. I rarely ever use it, but every time I go in there, I see it. I pick it up. I'm like, this thing is so nice.
yeah,
It gives me the same feeling that Leica does. Like it's a
yeah.
really nice looking object, and I want to go shoot with it. And I pick it
I
up. I'll take like a photo of like a random object in the room, and then I'll put it away. I'm like,
yeah.
cool.
We should add actually because I think that's what I mean. Whether or not you said the Leica was kind of end game for you, for me it was like okay, a Fuji is like a modern interpretation of what a Leica could be, give or take. I mean, and I should have mentioned that earlier.
Get
That's
a
actually what I started
cue.
with, right? I started with an X100F back in maybe 2018. And I was like, man, this is great. I mean, again, it's not a true rangefinder, but the rangefinder offset viewfinder, the compact nature of the camera, the fixed lens, and just kind of keeping it simple was something I realized I'm like, I really, really enjoyed the heck out of that camera. And, like again, as a testament to that, like I sold my X100F, really realized that like that was a mistake. So now I have an X100V as well. But it's really, I think what with the gateway, Fuji on a whole really was the gateway to like Leicas because it's probably the closest thing to, the feel, the vibe, the emotion, whatever. I know it sounds
I
kind
can
of
see
cheesy,
that.
but
I
you can get it, right? Out
I
of,
think that
yeah.
if you go into like a Fuji subreddit or Fuji forum or anything, everybody's like, so I bought a Fuji, and which Leica should I buy? Like everybody gets a Fuji, and they're like, no, I want the real
Yeah.
rangefinder experience because
Yeah.
Fuji has the fake rangefinder with like the digital cross whatever
It's just not
thing
the
Yeah.
that
same,
make
man.
it.
You
Yeah.
pick up a
It's not.
Fuji and you don't have
Yeah.
the weight. You don't have the weight to it. You don't have the usability of it. It's not the same. Like it
Yeah.
looks the same,
But you have classic
but
chrome,
it's
which is
not the
amazing.
same.
Yeah. Yeah. And now classic
Classic
negative.
what? Oh, classic
Classic
chrome.
chrome.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
Yeah.
dude, have you shot with like the black and white JPEGs out of the Q2? Like,
oh no 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 no
No,
no 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 no.
no.
There's nothing nicer than Acros presets in a Fuji for
Yeah.
black and white. Oh
Yeah.
man,
I
like
disagree,
that
but
is what I spent hours in Lightroom making my Leica black and white photos look like my straight out of camera JPEGs from my Fuji.
Yeah.
Those
all
things
right,
are magical. The
fair enough.
contrast, everything. The way
Yeah.
that the actual JPEG knows what ISO you're shooting at and makes the grain appropriate for the ISO.
Yeah. It's less
It's
than just like it's funny you mentioned that. It's contextual. So I was reading an article about it was a sit down with Fuji. It was like on Fuji Rumors website. I don't know. It got recommended to me, and they were talking about the work. All the other presets that they have are kind of like, yeah, okay, we just do this thing with the color. But they're like Acros, like whoa, Acros is a special special project that they had where it's not just do this with the highlights, do this with shadows, and make it black and white. It's like this thing that they've really put a lot of effort into making, and it shows. I mean, Acros. I'm not a big black and white shooter, but every time I shoot Acros, I'm like, God, I was like, man, I should
Mhm.
just shooting black and white for everything because this is phenomenal.
Yep.
Talk to Alan Schaller about the M10
Yeah.
monochrome and then get back to me.
Yeah,
Imagine
that's
if he
true.
had a Fuji, how much better his work would be.
Yeah.
If you guys have any questions about Leica or anything like that, or switching over, I know it's a big investment. I've been trying to like sell my friends on it, my other photography friends, my other, wedding photography friends. A lot of them think I'm crazy, but I'm happy to see that a lot more people are starting to realize that Leica is a viable option for them. So if you guys have any questions, let us know in the comments below. Always feel free to reach out to us on Instagram, which we have a new Instagram. It's cmy.cast. We'll put a link to that in the description so you guys can follow us and give us a like. Subscribe. We'll be on next week, guys.
Yeah. We'll be on back
We've been
on
doing this
next
like
week.
every week, so we're doing good.
Yeah.
We're doing good.
Yeah,
Let's
we're
keep
trying
it
to
up.
stay consistent with it. So
Let's see what happens after COVID once we actually like do things in our lives.
I know, man. We go out to shoot. We're in Miami, so currently today. What's today? July 21st.
21st, yeah.
We are the current epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic, so we can't go anywhere. Basically, we've been kind of stuck in the house. I haven't really been able to shoot too much, especially like personal work. So, and I know that you guys haven't either, right?
No, at all.
I mean, Marc shoots at home for the most part, which is amazing. Check out his Instagram. That post you posted today was phenomenal, dude. That photo is like, I think maybe top three.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Yeah,
just sit in the backyard watching the kids play. So, spending enough time back there, it's like I'm starting to learn the light in my backyard. So,
yeah, for sure, man. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll be back on soon.
Cool.
All right, guys. Take care.